Imagine a man whose life was a series of escalating betrayals, culminating in a cold-blooded double murder that shocked Florida. This is the story of Ronald Wayne Clark Jr., a man who, in the late 1980s and early 1990s, traded his potential for a path of violence, robbery, and execution-style killings. His crimes were not impulsive acts of rage, but calculated maneuvers of a predator. The chilling detail of his first known murder, a body tied to cinder blocks and dumped, is a grim testament to the methodical nature of his evil. Before we dive into the dark details of his life and crimes, remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes of the Calendar of Crime. Born on April 20th, 1968, in Jacksonville, Florida, Ronald Wayne Clark Jr.'s early life, as is often the case, holds clues to the man he would become. While details are sparse, court records and later interviews hint at a troubled upbringing. A chilling post from Clark himself, written from death row, speaks of a loving father who would hand his little son a beer and put his 15-year-old son on the street selling drugs. This self-described early exposure to a life of crime and neglect suggests a foundation built on instability and moral ambiguity. By his early 20s, Clark was already on a destructive trajectory, moving from petty crime to the ultimate act of violence. Clark's descent into depravity began in earnest on October 29, 1989, with a robbery that quickly escalated to murder. While the full details of this first victim are often overshadowed by the second, the brutality was undeniable. This was the moment Clark crossed the line from criminal to killer. The chilling lack of remorse or attempt to conceal his actions, which involved a rapid and violent conclusion to a simple robbery, set a terrifying precedent for the violence that was to follow just a few months later. The most documented and shocking of his crimes occurred on January 12, 1990, with the murder of Ronald Willis. Clark, driven by the need for a vehicle, targeted Willis. The crime began as an armed robbery, but it ended with a shocking display of overkill. Clark was found guilty of stealing Willis's truck, and then, in a truly monstrous act, shooting Willis repeatedly in the head with a shotgun. But the brutality didn't end there. To ensure the body would never be found, Clark tied cinder blocks to Willis's body and dumped it, an act of calculated disposal that speaks volumes about his cold, detached state of mind. The investigation into the disappearance and subsequent discovery of Ronald Willis's body quickly focused on Clark. The trail of the stolen truck and witness testimony soon led law enforcement to their suspect. Clark's apprehension was the result of diligent police work, piecing together the events of that night. When confronted, the evidence against him was overwhelming, painting a clear picture of a man who had planned and executed a robbery and murder with chilling efficiency. His capture brought a temporary end to a spree of violence that had claimed 2 lives in less than 3 months. The trial of Ronald Wayne Clark Jr. was a grim affair. The jury convicted him of armed robbery and the first-degree murder of Ronald Willis. The penalty phase, however, revealed a shocking detail about Clark's defiance. During the sentencing hearing, Clark refused to allow his attorney to present any mitigating evidence. This extraordinary decision, a deliberate rejection of any attempt to save his own life, suggested a man either utterly resigned to his fate or one who felt no need to justify his actions. The trial court ultimately found multiple aggravating circumstances and no mitigators, leading to the inevitable sentence of death. Today, Ronald Wayne Clark Jr. remains on death row in Florida. His case has been the subject of numerous appeals, challenging his conviction and sentence through the Florida Supreme Court and even the U.S. Supreme Court. However, his story took a bizarre and modern turn in the early 2010s. Clark became one of the few death row inmates to gain a public voice through the internet, blogging from behind bars. His writings, often philosophical and self-reflective, offered a strange window into the mind of a condemned man, discussing everything from prison life to his own troubled past, a stark contrast to the brutality of his crimes. The case of Ronald Wayne Clark Jr. is a dark reminder of the capacity for calculated evil. It is a story of a young man who chose a path of violence, leaving a trail of victims and a legacy of legal battles. His continued presence on death row and his unexpected foray into the digital world only add layers to a complex, disturbing narrative. The victims, however, remain the true focus. 2 lives brutally extinguished by a man who seemed to value his own freedom and desires above all else. Thanks for watching. Please comment, share, like, and subscribe for future episodes from the calendar of Crime 4.